My life with Maya was built on a foundation of comfortable silences. We had the kind of love that didn't need constant narration. It existed in the quiet hum of the dishwasher, the weight of her leg thrown over mine in the middle of the night, the way she'd leave a cup of coffee on my nightstand, knowing I'd hit snooze 3 times. It was a good life, a real, solid, adult life in a Chicago 2-bedroom with a fiddle-leaf fig we were miraculously keeping alive. At T31, I thought I had successfully shed the skin of my 20s, that restless, chaotic decade of questionable choices and warehouse parties that ended at dawn. I was Clara, a graphic designer with a stable job, a 401k, and a partner who was my anchor. Maya was a landscape architect. She built beautiful, orderly worlds out of soil and stone. It was a fitting profession. She was the calmest person I knew, a safe harbor. And I loved her. I truly did. But sometimes in the dead of night, I'd lie awake and feel an echo, a phantom vibration from a life I'd boxed up and stored in the attic of my memory. It was the ghost of the girl who used to chase thunderstorms, the one who believed that love wasn't real unless it threatened to burn you alive. That ghost got a phone call on a Tuesday. "Clara, you absolute hermit. Don't you dare send me to voicemail." The voice was a shot of whiskey from the past. Sasha, my former roommate, partner in crime, and the agent of chaos I'd lovingly jettisoned when I decided to become a respectable adult. Sasha, I laughed, picturing her instantly. A whirlwind of black leather, silver rings, and a smirk that had gotten us into and out of more trouble than I could count. "To what do I owe the pleasure? Did you get arrested again?" "Huh, very funny. No, I'm calling with a gift. An invitation to save your soul from the beige-colored hell of domesticity I assume you're living in." I glanced around our apartment, all muted grays, warm woods, and strategically placed succulents. She wasn't entirely wrong. It's called taste. Sasha, you should try it sometime. Taste is for cheese boards, babe. Life is for eating with your hands. Listen, I have a key for you. Friday night, a little place called the Alibi. It's an experience. You can't bring your phone, you can't bring a +1, and you can't talk about it afterwards. My guy can only get one person in. It has to be you. A cold thrill, unwelcome and undeniable, shot through me. I knew what she meant by an experience. Sasha didn't do book clubs. I don't know, Sash. I'm pretty busy. Maya and I have a thing. The thing was assembling an IKEA bookshelf. The lie was so pathetic it was almost transparent. Sasha's voice softened, losing its playful edge and gaining a surgeon's precision. "Clara, when was the last time you did something just for you? Something that nobody else needed to understand or approve of? When was the last time you felt your own pulse?" Her question landed like a stone in the placid pond of my life, the ripples spreading wider and wider. I looked at the half-finished design project on my screen, at the grocery list on the fridge, at the neat, predictable map of my future. I loved this map, but Sasha was offering a detour into uncharted territory, just for one night. "Text me the address," I said before I could stop myself. Lying to Maya felt like swallowing glass. I told her Sasha was having a crisis, an emergency art installation. That required my immediate, all-night assistance. Maya, bless her trusting heart, just kissed my forehead and told me to call if I needed anything, a promise I knew I couldn't keep. Guilt was a heavy coat as I took the L train downtown, but underneath it, a different feeling was sparking to life, a dangerous, feral hum of anticipation. The address wasn't a club. It was a nondescript brownstone in a forgotten corner of the city, squeezed between a laundromat and a boarded-up bookstore. There was no sign, no velvet rope, no bouncer, just a heavy oak door with a small brass griffin knocker. I knocked twice, paused, then once more, just as Sasha's text had instructed. A slot slid open at eye level, revealing a pair of bored, kohl-rimmed eyes. "Password?" A voice rasped. "Orpheus," I said, my own voice tight. The eyes blinked. The slot snapped shut. A series of heavy bolts clicked and groaned, and the door swung inward. The man who let me in was built like a refrigerator and dressed like a Victorian undertaker. He gestured to a small velvet-lined box on a marble table. "Phone." It wasn't a request. I dropped my phone into the box. It felt like severing a limb. He handed me a small, ornate skeleton key. "Your locker. Don't lose it. Second floor. Welcome to the Alibi." Then he was gone, and I was alone in a dimly lit foyer that smelled of old wood, beeswax, and something else. Something electric and wild, like the air before a lightning strike. The only way to go was up a winding staircase. Each step I took, the quiet life I had with Maya seemed to fall further and further away. I wasn't just climbing a staircase. I was making a choice. The second floor wasn't a single room. It was a sprawling, interconnected labyrinth of spaces, each one a universe unto itself. The music was a low thrumming bass that seemed to vibrate up through the soles of my feet, a heartbeat for the whole building. The air was thick with the smells of spilled wine, expensive perfume, clove cigarettes, and that strange metallic tang of ozone. It was the scent of secrets being told and rules being broken. I moved through the first room, a decadent lounge that looked like a 1922nd speakeasy on acid. Velvet couches were filled with languid bodies, their faces obscured by shadows and the smoke curling from their cigarettes. People weren't talking so much as murmuring, their conversations like a low, conspiratorial hum. No one looked at me. It was the first rule of a place like this. You see everything, and you acknowledge nothing. You are a ghost among ghosts. My heart was a frantic bird against my ribs. Part of me, the sensible, Maya-loving part, was screaming to turn around, to beg the undertaker for my phone back and run back to the safety of my life. But the other part, the part Sasha had reawakened, was captivated. This was a world without judgment, without history, without consequence. Here, you could be anyone. I pushed through a heavy damask curtain into another room. This one was quieter, the walls lined with bookshelves from floor to ceiling. But instead of reading, people were intertwined on leather armchairs, their bodies moving in slow, deliberate rhythms. It wasn't crass or pornographic. It was strangely beautiful, like living sculptures. A man with a cascade of silver hair gently traced the spine of a woman in a red dress. Two women, their heads bent together, whispered into each other's mouths. It was a library of unspoken desires. I kept moving, a voyeur propelled by a curiosity that had completely eclipsed my fear. Each room was a different fantasy. One was a stark, white, minimalist space where a single dancer moved under a spotlight, their body a canvas of muscle and grace. Another was a chaotic artist's studio, the floor splattered with paint, where people were drawing on each other's bodies with charcoal and ink. I felt like I was walking through someone else's dream. I was an intruder, a tourist in this strange land. I didn't belong here. My life was Pottery Barn furniture and shared calendars. This was something else entirely. I was about to retreat when I saw her. She wasn't participating. She was observing, like me, but with an authority I completely lacked. She was leaning against a marble mantelpiece in a room that looked like a hunter's lodge, all dark wood, taxidermy, and flickering firelight. She was tall, with a cascade of dark, wild curls that fell over the shoulders of a perfectly tailored black tuxedo jacket. No shirt underneath, just a hint of a delicate lace bralette, and on her head, tilted at a defiant, playful angle, was a black top hat. Like a magician who had just completed her greatest trick, she held a glass of amber liquid whiskey, probably, and she swirled it gently, watching the scene before her with an expression of detached amusement. She moved with an unhurried grace, her shoulders back, her gaze direct, as if the world was a stage built for her and everyone else was just an audience. Her presence was a gravitational pull, a silent, magnetic force in a room full of noise, and then, as if she felt my stare, she turned her head. Her eyes found mine across the crowded room. They were the color of moss after a rainstorm, a deep, intelligent green. And they didn't just glance at me, they pinned me. There was no flirtation in her gaze, no invitation. It was an assessment, a question. She saw me, not just the woman in the simple black dress, but the tourist, the fraud, the woman who was playing dress up in a world she didn't understand. My breath caught, my face flushed hot. I was exposed. She raised her glass in a slow, deliberate toast, a ghost of a smirk playing on her lips. It wasn't a welcome. It was a "what are you going to do now?" I should have walked away. That's what the Clara who loved Maya would have done. She would have taken that knowing smirk as her cue to exit, to return to the world where she belonged. But the echo inside me, the restless ghost, was no longer a ghost. It was awake, and it was walking toward her. I moved through the crowd, my steps feeling both leaden and weightless. When I reached the fireplace, I stood a few feet away, my hands clasped behind my back like a nervous schoolgirl. "Lost?" she asked, her voice a low, smoky alto. It wrapped around me, a tangible thing, just exploring. I managed, my own voice sounding thin and reedy. This isn't a museum, she said, taking a small sip of her whiskey. Her eyes, those unnerving green eyes, roamed over me, from my sensible shoes to my anxious expression. People don't come here just to look. They come here to forget, or to remember. Which one are you? My carefully prepared facade of casual coolness crumbled. I'm not sure yet. Her smirk widened into a genuine, devastating smile. Honesty, how refreshing. She gestured with her glass to the room around us. This is my favorite room, the Hunter's Lodge. It's all about the chase, the illusion of control. Everyone in here thinks they're the predator. They're not. And you are? The question was bolder than I felt. She laughed, a rich, throaty sound. Darling, I'm not the predator. I'm the forest. I just provide the scenery for the hunt. She set her glass down on the mantelpiece and stepped closer. She smelled of whiskey, expensive leather, and something uniquely her own, like old books and thunderstorms. You, on the other hand, you have the look of a fawn that's wandered into a wolf's den and is trying to convince everyone it's a wolf too. My cheeks burned. I'm not a fawn, no. She was so close now I could see the flecks of gold in her eyes. She reached out, not to touch me, but to pluck a piece of lint from the shoulder of my dress. Her fingers brushed my skin for a fraction of a second, and a shock of heat, sharp and electric, shot down my arm. Then prove it. There's a rule here. No tourists. You can't just watch the show. You have to be in it, even if it's just for one scene. My throat was dry. This was the moment of truth, the final door. I could still turn back. And what scene did you have in mind? I whispered. Her smile was slow, predatory, and utterly captivating. I have a room. It's quieter. She held out her hand. It wasn't a demand. It was an offer, a dare. My name is Julien. My name is Clara, and I love my girlfriend. My brain screamed. I'm Sarah. I heard myself say, the lie tasting like ash on my tongue. I put my hand in hers. Her skin was warm, her grip firm and confident. She led me away from the firelight, through a door I hadn't noticed, concealed behind a tapestry of a medieval hunting scene. The thrumming bass of the club faded, replaced by a sudden, enveloping silence. The room was nothing like the others. It was a simple, elegant space, dominated by a large, circular bed covered in black silk sheets. The walls were painted a deep, midnight blue, and the only light came from dozens of thick, white candles, their flames dancing and casting long, flickering shadows. The air was cool and smelled of sandalwood and melting wax. Julien released my hand and turned to face me, her silhouette framed by the candlelight. The top hat was gone, left behind in the other room. Her dark curls framed a face that was even more striking, up close, sharp cheekbones, a strong jaw, and lips that looked both cruel and kind. So, Sarah, she murmured, her voice a velvet whisper in the quiet. What are you running from? I'm not running, I lied, my heart hammering against my ribs. Everyone is running from something, she said, her gaze intense. The 9 to 5, a loveless marriage, a life that fits like a suit that's 2 sizes too small. They come here to the Alibi to wear a different costume for a few hours. She took a step closer. The question is, what costume do you want to wear tonight? Before I could answer, before I could even think, she closed the remaining distance between us. She didn't kiss me. She just stood there, her body almost touching mine, her heat a palpable force. She lifted a hand and gently, almost reverently, traced the line of my jaw with her fingertips. Her touch was feather light, but it left a trail of fire in its wake. You're trembling, she whispered, her green eyes searching mine. I'm not scared, I said, and for the first time that night, it felt like the truth. Good, she murmured, her gaze dropping to my lips. Because I am. And then she kissed me. It wasn't a kiss of passion, not at first. It was a kiss of discovery, of curiosity. It was slow, deliberate, a question asked and answered in the same breath. Her lips were soft, tasting of whiskey and secrets. My body didn't just respond, it ignited. The quiet, predictable world of Clara and Maya dissolved into smoke, and there was only the flickering candlelight, the scent of sandalwood, and the intoxicating reality of Julien. I kissed her back, all the restless, dormant parts of me waking up at once. I was no longer a tourist. I was no longer a ghost. I was here, in this room, with this woman. And for the first time in a very, very long time, I felt completely, terrifyingly alive. Time ceased to exist in that candlelit room. The world outside, with its rules and consequences and shared calendars, melted away, leaving only the immediate, overwhelming present. Julian's hands moved over me with a confident, knowing grace, mapping the lines of my body as if she were reading a story she already knew by heart. She whispered to me, not words of seduction, but observations. "You hold your tension here," she murmured, her fingers pressing into the tight knot at the base of my neck, sending a shiver down my spine. "You think too much." Her lips brushed against my ear. "Stop thinking." And I did. For the first time in years, the incessant narrator in my head went silent. There was no room for thought, only for sensation. The slide of my dress pulling at my feet, the cool silk of the sheets against my bare skin, the heat of her mouth on my collarbone. It was a complete and total surrender. Her touch wasn't rushed or demanding. It was an exploration. She was an artist, and my body was her canvas. She discovered places I didn't know were sensitive, evoked responses I didn't know I was capable of. With Maya, love was a gentle, flowing river. With Julien, it was a storm, a wild, elemental force that threatened to pull me under, and I was letting it some point. The door opened silently, and another woman slipped into the room, then another. They moved with the same fluid grace as Julien, their faces beautiful and anonymous in the flickering shadows. There were no introductions, no awkward negotiations. It was as if they were all part of the same dream, extensions of Julien's will. They joined us on the vast circular bed, their hands and mouths adding to the sensory overload until I couldn't tell where one person ended and another began. It should have been overwhelming, sordid, even scary, but it wasn't. It was a perfectly orchestrated chaos, a symphony of touch and breath and whispered words. I wasn't an object. I was a participant, a focal point in a whirlwind of shared, anonymous pleasure. I was lost in it, a willing shipwreck on a sea of sensation. I remember laughter, the taste of champagne on someone's lips, the feeling of Julien's curls brushing against my cheek, her voice a steady anchor in the storm, murmuring my fake name, Sarah, like a sacred, secret prayer, and then nothing. A black, peaceful void. I woke to the feeling of a cool sheet draped over me and the soft, gray light of morning filtering through a high window. My head ached with a dull, persistent throb. For a moment, I had no idea where I was. Then the memories of the night flooded back, a chaotic, sensual montage of images and feelings. I sat up, clutching the sheet to my chest. The room was empty. The candles were extinguished, leaving behind the faint, waxy smell of their demise. My clothes were folded neatly on a chair, my skeleton key placed on top. The door opened, and Julien walked in. She was dressed in simple black leggings and a soft, oversized cashmere sweater. Her hair was pulled back, her face was bare of makeup, and she was holding 2 steaming mugs. In the harsh light of day, she looked less like a mythical creature and more like a real, breathtakingly beautiful woman. "Good morning, Sarah," she said, her voice softer than I remembered. She handed me a mug. It was strong black coffee. Or should I say, Clara? I froze, the mug halfway to my lips. The blood drained from my face. "How?" She sat on the edge of the bed, a comfortable distance away, and gave me a small, wry smile. "I told you, I'm the forest. I know every creature that wanders into it." Sasha mentioned her old friend, the brilliant graphic designer who had settled down. It wasn't hard to put together. She took a sip of her coffee, her green eyes studying me over the rim of the mug. "The real question is, does Clara know she was here last night?" The weight of my real life came crashing back down on me. Maya, our apartment, the IKEA bookshelf waiting to be built. Guilt, sharp and nauseating, twisted in my stomach. "I have to go," I said, my voice a hoarse whisper. Julien nodded slowly. She didn't try to stop me. She didn't mock me. Her expression was unreadable, a mixture of understanding and something else, something that looked almost like disappointment. "The alibi isn't a place, Clara. It's a state of mind. You can leave the building, but I'm not so sure you can leave the forest." She stood up and walked to the door. "There's a private exit at the end of the hall. It will let you out a block away. No one will see you." She paused, her hand on the doorknob. "It was a pleasure meeting you, Clara, the real you." Then she was gone. I dressed in a daze, my body aching in ways that were both pleasurable and painful. As I walked out into the bright, unforgiving light of a Chicago Saturday, the city felt alien, a world I no longer recognized. Julien was right. I had left the building, but the forest, with all its dark, intoxicating secrets, had come with me. The train ride home was a special kind of hell. Every reflection in the window showed a stranger, a woman with wild, sleep-deprived eyes and a faint, telltale bruise on her neck that I frantically tried to cover with my collar. I reeked of guilt. I could smell it on my skin, a cloying mix of sandalwood, whiskey, and another woman's perfume. Maya was in the kitchen when I walked in, humming along to a podcast while she kneaded dough on the floured countertop. The scene was so painfully domestic, so blessedly normal, it felt like a punch to the gut. This was my life, the one I had chosen, the one I had just so carelessly betrayed. She looked up and smiled, her face lighting up in that way that always made my heart ache. "Hey, you're back. How was the art crisis? Did you save the day?" "Something like that," I mumbled, forcing a smile that felt like a facial tic. I leaned in to kiss her cheek, praying she wouldn't get a whiff of my sins. "It was a long night. I'm exhausted. You look it," she said, her brow furrowing with concern. "Go take a shower. Relax. I'm making my famous lasagna for dinner tonight." A shower. The one thing I wanted and the one thing I couldn't do. Nothing screams "I just cheated on you" like scrubbing yourself clean the second you walk through the door. It was amateur hour. "No, I'm fine," I said, a little too quickly. "I'm just gonna crash on the couch for a bit." I made a beeline for the living room, collapsing face down into a cushion before she could get a closer look. The day passed in a blur of anxiety. I feigned sleep, my mind racing. I constructed and deconstructed a dozen different lies. I thought about confessing, about laying the whole ugly truth at Maya's feet, but I couldn't. The thought of her face, of that beautiful, trusting smile crumbling into pain. I was a coward. I couldn't be the person who destroyed her. By evening, I had concocted a plan. I put on my running clothes, told Maya I needed to clear my head, and ran 3 miles, pushing myself until my lungs burned and my body was drenched in the acceptable kind of sweat. Then, and only then, did I take my shower, scrubbing my skin, raw as if I could wash away the memory of Julien's touch. Dinner was quiet. The lasagna was perfect, cheesy and comforting. It tasted like home. It tasted like a lie. We ate. We talked about our weeks. We fell back into the easy rhythm of our life together. And with every normal moment, the guilt receded, replaced by a cold, pragmatic resolve. I had made a mistake, a huge, life-altering mistake, but it was over. It was a secret I would carry to my grave. I could fix this. I could be the person Maya deserved. That night, in our bed, she reached for me. Her touch was familiar, gentle, and safe. I gave her what she wanted, what she needed. I poured every ounce of my feigned normalcy into it, trying to erase the memory of the night before. But as I closed my eyes, it wasn't Maya's face I saw. It was a pair of moss-green eyes, a knowing smirk, and the shadow of a magician's hat. The story should end there. It should end with me recommitting to my life, burying my secret, and living happily ever after with my wonderfully oblivious partner. But that's not what happened. A month later, a black, unmarked envelope appeared in our mailbox, addressed to me. Inside, there was no letter. Just a single ornate skeleton key, identical to the one I'd been given at the Alibi. Tucked alongside it was a business card. It was thick black cardstock, with a single word embossed in silver, Orpheus. On the back, a handwritten address. And a date. My heart stopped. It was an invitation, a summons. Julien hadn't forgotten me. And the most terrifying part, the part that proved what a monster I truly was, I was going to go. The affair, if you could call it that, has been going on for 2 years now. The Alibi is never in the same place twice. It moves like a ghost through the city. Sometimes it's a loft, sometimes a warehouse, sometimes the back rooms of an unassuming restaurant. The key always finds me. Sometimes it's in the mail. Once, it was left on my desk at work by a courier with no return address. Julien and I have our own rituals now, our own unspoken language. She is the wild, chaotic, exhilarating part of my life. She is the storm I run to. And Maya, last year, on our anniversary, I proposed. She cried. She said yes. We're getting married in the spring. She's the quiet, steady, unconditional love of my life. She is the harbor I always run back to. Both of these things are true. I live a fractured existence, a woman split in two. There is Clara, the loving fiancée who helps plan a wedding and dreams of a future with the woman she adores. And there is Sarah, the ghost who disappears into the night, seeking the intoxicating chaos of a woman who knows her darkest secrets. I don't know how long I can keep the two worlds from colliding. I don't know if I'm a good person pretending to be bad, or a bad person who has gotten very, very good at pretending. Maybe there's no difference. All I know is that some nights, I fall asleep to the sound of Maya's soft breathing, my heart full of a love so pure and safe it feels like grace. And on other nights, I lie awake in a stranger's bed, the scent of sandalwood in the air, and listen to the rhythm of a wilder, more dangerous heart, and that feels like grace too. Life isn't clean. It's messy and contradictory. Sometimes, it's building a home with the woman you love, and sometimes it's returning to the forest, hoping the wolves remember your name.